Test 1, 2.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. It is almost 8:30.
All these clocks are different.
Oh, what clock you're saying? What is, oh,
They're all different.
mine just went 8:30.
8:30 is what mine says. It is now 8:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to have somebody approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
At this time, please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we are now open for public comments. I'll look and see. Anybody on here that would like to add something before we get started with JD? If not, JD, I think you're up.
Good morning, JD King, Page County Engineer. This was delivered to your email late last evening. Slightly different format, didn't have a scanner that was working at the house, and various other things. So now that you can read this, I should probably just sit down.
Yeah.
But we got blades out and we know where the windrows are. And my superintendent is talking with the blade operators about those segments for all unlocked. Probably have a few more. We have 2 more trucks today, so it'll be 4 trucks today, 2 trucks yesterday. Dirt was working down at the bridge east of the quarry on dirt there, cleaning that up. And they have another project in the area down there before they're going to move away. We are starting to mow on the hard surface roads. Memorial Day is coming up later this month. We usually try to get over all the hard surface or the pavements before that. We're going to wait a little bit on the batwing and our other mowers down in the shop. The spray patcher crew has gone over the machine, and we have oil and chips. And the M56 from 2 north up to 9, and we're going to work on that first. But of course, the first day, which is today, we're going to slip over the East River Road where there's a soft spot or there's a dip over a culvert. We're going to run it first there, so it's pretty close to home should we have some issues with the machine. And they're cutting trees we did not burn yesterday. It was too windy. We're still waiting on mower parts for the cat mower, the yellow mower. We do have hoist parts for our underground hoist in the shop. The parts are in Omaha. They're waiting on an installation crew to find the installation crew to put it in. And as we know, summer showed up yesterday and our ice machine was working, heavy demand. And the vendor that sold it to us several years ago, I mean, this was back in 2014, 2015 that we bought that ice machine. He was in to do a little work on it, and demand is high. It's a good piece of equipment. It's a piece of safety equipment. Doesn't strike you as that perhaps first, but in times like this, it's a piece of safety equipment. We're busy on the engineering side. Vote in place is underway. They worked last Friday and Saturday. And yesterday, of course, they're down to Highway 2 last night, starting there this morning, going back north on the last 7 lane miles. Should be done midweek. Things go as planned. And then I spoke with Brad Henningsen from Henningsen Construction out of Atlantic, who are doing the paving. They are moving the plant down. It's gonna be in Macedonia.
Oh.
So, but they're moving the plant this week and calibrating next. And he anticipates starting to pave toward the end of next week. So we can see that, you know, we're not doing a tour today, but we do a tour next week or the following week. There'll be paving going on, so there'll be things to look at. This is also that time of the year when we shift to a summer schedule, the week after the Memorial Day week, which is the 6th of June. We'll start the 4/10s, work Monday to Thursday, off Friday. And a couple of other comments about our neighbor to the east here. So he's getting along. And a couple of comments about my schedule. Questions for me?
Get the signs or the warning.
We have no pavement marking signs up at Bethesda.
Okay. Super.
And so we'll put those on the south part of the segment also.
Thank you.
And then after, I've kind of forgotten, what's the protocol for painting that when it is complete? Do you wait a certain amount of time before you?
No, when the paving's done, we'll go ahead and stripe it then.
Okay.
It's not like a fog seal where it needs a little traffic on it.
Okay.
On those windrows, they're able to get, because I've had some calls on those, the water running down the road instead of getting off the
Right.
road because of windrow.
Right. Now, I've seen spots where they're supposed to cut on the steeper hills. They're supposed to cut channels in those big windrows
To let
to
it
get the
out.
water off
Yeah.
periodically.
Right. But they're out working all those, trying to work all those down
Yeah.
now. Or-
Take it back across again and lose it, and then the majority, I won't say that. Some of the roads where they pulled in and created these large windrows are also roads that are being rocked with our farm to market, which should be later this month, first part of June.
They're gonna shape them and then rock it. They're gonna crown it and then rock
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So
So you got enough-
we did need moisture
Right.
to help make that work.
Right.
Should be plenty of that now. Huh?
And it'll dry out pretty fast
Well, yeah, with that wind.
with the wind. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Anything else? Okay. Good work. I think, Brenda, you don't have any guests coming, do you, to talk about? Okay. Why don't you step on up, and do you want to talk or tell us a little bit about what you've got, what you found out, so forth?
I guess the reasoning for my visit with you guys today is to request some additional funds for my book project. And kind of make a long story short, the reason why I had a gentleman in the company, ARPA, come in and they estimated my books. And I got to a section of part of my wall and I said, well, we don't need to worry about these books because they're all indexed, they're all scanned. And so we bypassed those, and about a week before they were to pull out the project, because they kind of extended their visit here, I thought, oh, those are indexed and scanned, but they are not available for the public. It's only in-house. So I guess I'm asking for additional funds to cover those books, and I reached out to Solutions, and a time period of 7 of 86 to June of 97, what means they are scanned, they can take that image, that PDF, and send them a PDF, and then ArcaSearch can convert those over. So Solutions to do that, there's about 30,000 images, and that'll be $4,450 for them to send them to ArcaSearch. And ArcaSert's estimated project amount is $10,813 for the additional 30,000 images. So I guess, I don't know if you have any questions. I guess I would like to ask for additional ARPA funding to kind of complete this project. But do you have any questions for me?
Let's see.
So I think we're like
You want
15
look
to
through-
62.
This is a copy. Is this the one I'm supposed to sign?
Yeah.
We're all supposed to sign.
Yeah.
You guys want to look through that? I'm sorry. But hang on to that.
So that's considered, since Solutions has them digitized, that's considered.
Save us a
less.
lot of time.
Well,
a
in
lot
this
of-
way, I thought, oh gosh, I asked him, I said, can you hurry up and give me a quote on what it is before they pulled out? And they said, oh, we can't. We would have maybe had to send those actual books to ArcaSearch, but with Solutions being able, means they are scanned, are imaged, that they can take and send and rename the file, which will be a book and page, and send it to them. So we got lucky on that, that I don't have to send the books off-site.
So the period of time, July 86 to June of 97?
Yes, yes.
So about 10 years, 11 years,
Mm.
almost 12.
So what, I guess my only question, I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised that you're able to get these at that cost. That's, you know, that's.
That's what I thought it was kind of cheap, but that's when they came through and they said, well, being they are imaged, that's the work of it.
So my only question, Brenda, is where are we with regard to, timeline? So we get this approved today. You'll have these books scanned, ArcaSearch will have them all indexed. When will that be available?
Well,
to the public?
the last project, they said they wanted to have their portion completed hopefully by June of the books that they had completed.
That they were here doing.
Yes. And then if this goes through, I don't know that it's gonna be that big a deal, a time frame. I didn't pinpoint her down, but it's gotta be quicker than them scanning
Sure.
all those
So then
documents.
it'll be available by July 1, you're thinking?
Well,
This year sometime.
I'm hoping that a lot of them,
July,
I am going through and I am looking for social security numbers because,
Want to make sure those aren't.
yes, that those are not available out there for,
Right.
so.
So sometime this year, those records should be available to the public.
Yeah.
So what is our plan for recovering some of these dollars? How are we gonna meter that
So
information?
once those are ready, we need to sit down and we need to decide how we're gonna charge. It's all over the board.
What other counties are?
Some do it a daily rate, some do it a weekly rate, some do it monthly, some do it yearly. It's something that we gotta decide what we're gonna do.
How many other counties are digitalized? I can't say that
Well,
word.
there,
How many other counties are using this process in the state of Iowa?
there's more and more that are starting to. Because
Would ISAC through the recorders
Affiliate.
section have that information available where you could contact them and start kind of putting together a spreadsheet of what
I
everybody
can.
else is
I
doing?
can, because the most of
Yeah.
the ones that she did give me a quote from ArcaSearch, they were out-of-state ones.
Yeah,
Out-of-state companies that have done this.
I think it'd be interesting to compare it to Iowa and see, because, otherwise we don't have any idea what out of state does for
Right.
their,
Right.
so I think it would be important, because every state does different as far as recorders and so forth.
So I figured, get with Carl and
Yeah.
sit down and discuss this and maybe get some numbers of what everybody's
Well,
gonna do.
I would think that you guys have a group that you belong to within the ISAC.
Mm-hmm.
I would think if you do an email post to the head and have them start sending you notes of, because there's got to be some counties that have already done this. I'm going to guess that we're not the first.
And I can do that.
So
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to start gathering some of that so we can
Okay.
have an idea what we need to think on.
And would encourage you to, I know the code speaks to this in a paper format. I'm not sure how clear the code is on digital records, but it's my understanding that we cannot charge any more than our actual cost.
Right.
And when we're paying for printers and reams of paper, that's pretty easy to figure.
Yeah.
But our costs
Now-
are significantly
yeah.
higher.
Yeah.
To digitize this, and
Yeah.
I would hope that we can
Yeah.
maximize, not to make it impossible, but, the companies that are typically going to use this, like they have been,
Mhm.
I mean, it's quite a bargain for them.
Yes.
I mean, they
Yeah.
really are paying a lot less now, and look at the investment that we've made. Had it
Yeah.
not been for ARPA, we couldn't have done it. I
Right.
mean,
And those counties or these companies also aren't local taxpayers either. They're making
No.
money off this.
Yeah, they're coming in from outside.
The taxpayers are paying for them to benefit.
Right.
So
Now,
I don't-
there's a cost to, maintenance cost of this every year. We got to at least, I think, factor that in,
Right.
plus the
Right.
cost of our investment.
Right. No, I agree.
So,
Mhm.
But yeah, your recorder's affiliate hopefully can give you some guidance. I know Carl, you've met with Carl on this before, but the code doesn't really speak
It does not.
about the digital side of this. And again, we don't want to be unreasonable, but for example, I think the Iowa Courts Online, you could buy a subscription to that for $25 a month. If somebody in the real estate business could buy it for $25 a month, they would save thousands of dollars a
Yeah.
year. And that's not
Right.
right.
Yeah, and I agree. But there's probably some other, between Des Moines, Waterloo, some of the other
And I'll
bigger
reach out to
markets. Those are the ones we need
Yeah.
to be competitive with to make sure, so,
Okay.
But otherwise, the ARPA dollars we still have, because when this all hit, I went ahead and added a little bit more into that amount, so we aren't going to be into any budget issue, so we got the funding for this. I'd entertain if there's so be a motion to, let's get this going and get it finished up.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion to commit additional $15,263.
Okay, the motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
we'll get this, Jacob, you got the paperwork down there if you want to sign and send it back this way, and we'll get that, I think the last page spot to sign, and then we'll get that back to Brenda and let her get her done. Yeah.
I signed the spot on the right spot.
Oh, yeah, like I said, you may not want to do anything until maybe even July, but, it wouldn't hurt to send a note to Isaac and just ask them if they've got anybody in the area that's doing anything. So I'm going to guess it's somebody.
Good morning, Greg. I see your maid is now going to join us electronically.
Yes. Okay,
Could we recess till 9, because I think that we have some people that are wanting to come and hear
yes,
this.
sure. At this time, we'll take a recess until 9 o'clock. When our next item is up on the board. I think at this time we can come out of recess, and I think that we can welcome you up to the podium if you're ready to start on the jail study presentation.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors and Sheriff and our taxpaying guests and patrons who have joined us. My name is Greg Wild. I'm the Business Development Manager at the Miscellaneous Group. Joining me online also is Sid Samuels. He had intended to be here today, but weather precluded him from attending. So caused some transportation issues. He also was planning to bring down with him the printed full report that we will provide. It is now on its way down to the sheriff. That should be arriving in the next day or two. And I'll ask Lyle to share those printed reports with you. But I wanted to do a quick recap of phase one. You'll recall back in October that we presented this report, which is kind of the full assessment of the jail facility. And I'm just going to hit the highlights of that. If you could go ahead and move forward with the slide, that'd be great. You recall that the jail committee participants were Jacob Holmes, Lyle Palmer, Charles Kala, Anthony Shackelford, and Carl Sonkson, the county attorney, as well as Sid Samuels, Henry Roop from our team, and myself. Hats off to these folks because we have literally put in dozens and dozens and dozens of hours to get to the point where we are. So today, what I'm here to do is to share just a little bit of findings with you. We'll move to the next slide. That would be great.
I can plug it in. It's supposed to plug
We're going to talk about the facility assessment overview. Again, I'm not going to get into in-depth of this because you've seen this, had a chance to review it and react to it. It's actually posted on the sheriff's website, so the public can see that as well. We're also going to define the program needs and space planning. Section 3 will go into some of the facility replacement options and estimated costs. And finally, we'll talk about the financial considerations and the tax impacts. So let's get started jumping real quickly onto the next slide, which was the existing jail assessment. And on to the next one. You'll recall that the jail was built in 1936. The Sheriff's Department is an old residence that was built, we believe, in the 1970s. I can't find an exact date, but that will give you a real good idea. There were some significant operational considerations that we looked at and identified as we went through there, the maximum capacity. The real challenge that the sheriff and deputies have is the lack of ability to classify or segregate inmates appropriately. 5 are required now, and I believe you're lucky to get 2 or maybe 3 classifications in your current facility. There are no padded cells, there's no isolation cell, there's no medical exam area for inmates. And so because of the facility design limits the ADP, the average daily population, when a health situation occurs like the pandemic or anything else, it puts tremendous stress on both the facility staff as well as the inmates. There's no shower in the adjacent holding cells, so inmates have to be escorted from that holding cell downstairs through the basement to a shower and toilet facility. There's no sally port, there's lack of detention doors and exit. The sally port, as you recall, is an enclosed interior space where a squad car can pull in, have a enclosed secure area, and then begin to remove inmates from that vehicle. There's no dedicated interior activity area or program space. There's lack of camera coverage and no recording, long-term recording capability. There are multiple ADA compliance issues, and many spaces throughout the facility are used for multiple purposes. We saw that, I'll share with you here in a few, but we saw many instances where space was doing 2 or 3 or 4 intended uses, and it puts tremendous challenges not only on staff but on supervision and inmates as well. So on the next slide, there are some facility issues, actual physical challenges. There are signs of movement in the building. So there's some structural concerns. Mold develops on walls and ceiling surfaces literally 12 months a year, both summer and winter and both shoulder seasons. There are reasons for that, but it's a constant battle. There are exposed electrical conduit and plumbing lines in the jail housing area. Several cells, in fact, are really not usable due to the poor conditions. So you're thinking of a 35 inmate facility is less than that, unfortunately. There's lack of proper storage throughout. You'll notice that in this report, there were photographs of supplies and cleaning and whatnot that were simply just stacked nearby, right in the inmate's pathway, because there's no other space for them. The other area that is seriously lacking was secure evidence storage, and it's not available. It's not there. There's currently an old two-car garage with an overhead door that's being used for some evidence storage. There's also evidence storage in the basement, which has some of its own challenges. There's, again, no interior design activity space. There's a small exterior exercise area. And really the crossover problems between the safety and security issues are the things that the staff got to deal with pretty much every day. So on to the next one, our findings, you'll recall, are listed pretty well comprehensively in this report. By the way, that report will be contained in the final report that you will see here in the next few days. You'll be able to thumb through that as well. In terms of findings, we feel that the physical layout and construction does not meet the county needs. It also does not meet current state jail standards. These limitations make it extremely difficult to maintain proper conditions. And past proposals looked at what might be done to address the jail situation, and that's what has brought us where we are today. We feel that there needs to be more discussion, more consideration, and more immediate action. So with that, we took a look at, okay, space planning. If you could move on to the next slide, that would be great. And in terms of defining space planning, the one thing, and on to the next one as well, please. The one thing that really stood out to us is not just the physical layout of the facility, but also how, as I said before, the spaces are used for multiple things. For instance, a deputy's office is also an interview room. It's also evidence storage, and oftentimes there are bathroom supplies stuck on a shelf. It's not that is prohibited, but it certainly isn't the ideal situation. Imagine if you're a deputy and you bring in a potential witness or a potential criminal, and you've got to conduct an interview. Do you want that individual right next to your evidence file cabinet? It's not an ideal situation. So on to the next slide. What we did then together is, with the help of Henry Kropp, our architect on staff, we looked at what really the needs are in terms of jail housing. And I know this is a small slide, but it is printed and also included in the handout. And the jail housing is intended to get to a capacity of 35 inmates. So we're not doubling the capacity of the proposed jail if you were to do so. But we would do some double bunking. We would have multiple pods. We would also have some dedicated spaces for exercise and activity and program as well. You'll notice that total square footage or net square footage is about 4,800 square feet. Put a grossing factor on there at 1.3, which allows for mechanical, electrical, hallways, the other kinds of areas that are necessary to create and connect all of those spaces. The next area is jail general, which is all the support that is required to really make that jail functional, not just the housing, including the sally port, pre-booking, booking area, the general area. So you got an exam room, a medical room, some food service prep, and then office area for staff as well. There's also some outdoor space that we've allowed for, again, for parking for staff, up to 6 stalls of outdoor space. So we looked at it both interior space as well as outdoor exterior space of what might be necessary. And on to the next slide, you'll notice, and you might jump ahead, the blue sheet, if you could, is the sheriff's department. We also looked at, okay, what is necessary to operate the sheriff's area, aside from the jail staff, and the total area that we determined with the grossing factor was just under 5,400 square feet, and about 4,800 square feet for some exterior areas, including evidence storage, some parking, and staff parking as well. So at this point, we were also asked to take a look at a couple of other options. And one of those other options included 911 dispatch, what it would take for 911 dispatch. And that area is in green. You'll see that 911 dispatch, going to the next area, next slide. 911 dispatch added about 1,200 square feet in terms of interior space and 1,500 square feet for some outdoor space, again, mostly for parking. Now, we're not advocating or insisting that that be a part of this, but again, we were asked to take a look and say, what would it take and what might that cost be? And you'll see that reflected in potential costs here shortly. We also were asked to look at emergency management. If there were an EOC, an emergency management director space provided, that's in salmon color. And so that totaled 2,600 square feet, 2,616, and plus some outdoor space, again, enclosed storage, covered parking, and some staff parking as well. And then the final area that we were asked to look at was, if this were to become a joint facility with the Clarinda Police Department, what might that need look like in terms of square footage space? And so in determining what's necessary, what they have, what they need in terms of general and office space, it totaled 3,200 square, just over 3,200 square feet for the police department, plus some outside spaces as well. And then moving on to shared space, if this were a joint facility, there would be a necessity to share some public areas, vestibules, waiting areas, restrooms, those sorts of things, entryways as people came in. And that totaled just over 1,500 square feet for interior space and a fair amount more for some outside space. So the last portion of this program needs and space planning area is a breakdown of gross square footage by what I call division, if you will, or category. And the grand total was 26,294, just under 295, 26,295 square feet of interior space, and just under that for gross outdoor space as well. You can see the percentage of what that entails. There's 46% for jail housing in general, about 20% for the sheriff's department. Shared spaces would represent about 5. Emergency management, just under 10. Clarinda Police Department, just over 12%, and 911 dispatch, just under 5%. Are there any questions about how we looked at or how we came up with these numbers and determinations in terms of the needs and space planning portion?
No, not really. The only question I have from a space, how big of a piece of land if we build it as presented in total, how big of a piece of land do we need?
Sid, do you want to address that question in minimum acreage size for parking and building footprint?
Yeah, at this point, we had not placed it on a plot to determine the overall, but I'm guessing you're in that 5 to probably 8 acres of land that would be suitable for your facility, parking, and then any potential growth that might happen in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
And as we would, the next steps, as we would step into that next step and start putting the schematic floor plan together, things like that, then we could get to some real accurate ideas in regards to acreage that we would need to house the facility.
Great, thank you, Sid. So let's move on then. Any other questions on the needs, the space planning portion of kind of how we determine where we're at? Great. Let's move on to next slide or two, where we're going to go to estimated costs. And this really is the nuts and bolts of what people are probably keenly interested in, is what would this potentially cost? These estimates were dated April 28th, so you can see that they are relevant. They are accurate and just a few weeks old. And that's one of the reasons we do this, is to try to give you a snapshot in time of what that looks like today. So across this spreadsheet, and I know it's tiny, I apologize for our folks online who may be trying to read this, but the 5 yellow bars or buckets up across the top represent those 5 core sections of a potential project. The first one is the new jail, both housing and the support or admin area for staff and storage and all that's required to accommodate that. The next section is the new sheriff's department. The third area would be 911 and dispatch. The fourth column is emergency management. And the last column is the new police department. If that would become a reality. Across the far left-hand columns are what we call division breakdowns, where we look at estimated costs for each one of these various activities to create this new space. And ultimately, you come down to a total cost per square foot and subtotal cost per building. You'll notice that, for instance, in the first column, the subtotal cost total per building was just over $7 million. But you've got to add some what we call soft costs or other factors into that number, including architectural fees, construction management. We also put a 10% contingency in there, as well as FFE, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We also put in a 10% escalation factor. So the projected total cost of that first column would be $9.4 million. And again, there's 20% in there for a 10% contingency and a 10% escalation.
Is there anything for site prep, running the wiring, the plumbing?
There is some minor amount for site prep and connection, but if you were to locate this, let's say, somewhere out of town, a ways away, and we'd have to run hundreds of feet of sewer, water, electrical, utility service, that is not covered. If it were to be somewhere nearby in town, there is some civil, what we call civil in there for that. But again, until we have that site determined, there is no land acquisition cost in any of these. So just because it's so unknown, we would hope that if you determine to move forward, we'd start looking at site options and begin to analyze what might work, what those costs might look like, and how best to address. Very good question. Okay. You can follow that all the way across the sheriff's department, 911 dispatch, emergency management, and the new potential police department. So in the very bottom, the left hand, kind of in those colored columns, if you were to look at just the jail support and sheriff's department and did just those portions, the estimated cost would be $12.5 million. If you were to add the cost of all those county proposed areas, 911 and emergency management into that, it adds just over $2 million. So it would get you to 15.2. And then if you were to add the Clarinda Police Department, it's just under $2 million. So somewhere between 12.5 to $17.5 million, again, depending on what you chose to do. A lot of money, but it is what it is.
I've done a lot of thinking about this.
Questions on estimate?
Well, and how this is broke down, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I've done a lot of thinking on this. The 12 million puts the sheriff's department and the jail and the support staff all together. One option that's not on here is just the jail and the support staff, which is kind of on here. You can break it down here. That right there, if we did that option, current sheriff's department building and the old jail is still there. And the old jail would make a whale of an evidence storage place, a huge place to put evidence, and the offices would be more room and the kitchen and everything. I kind of like that option of just looking at and building on a site that you can add on if you want someday, but that's not here, which would cut off how many millions? That cut off about 3 million, basically, or somewhere around that. That's just another option.
Correct.
That's the only thing that actually could be flunked or failed or be inhumane or anything of that nature, or unsafe.
So 2 locations then?
Basically, the sheriff's, I've just been thinking about this, the sheriff's department can just use that entire facility for offices, whatever they need, evidence and whatever.
And then build,
Just
where would you build the jail itself? So
some location that was the most reasonable to put it. I mean, the most simple. But if you built it on, like he's saying, 5 acres or more, you build it in a way that you can always shoot on some other stuff. But
now,
and all the thinking and looking at these numbers, all these extra things, I think are not really. Like when we were going through square foot price, just the sheriff's office was going to be just a 12 by 18 room because part of this jail was around $50,000 to $60,000, not counting hallways, bathrooms, things. Just that place. And it wasn't an exuberant size. It's just very expensive.
The one thing I would caution Jacob and to the board is when we're looking at these various options, the one thing we have not taken into account yet is the cost of staffing. And one of the things that we talked about early on was that the sheriff's department is kind of does double duty in regards to jail staff and oversight of the jail, just due to pure size. We also talked about 911 dispatch being potentially consolidated into the group with the opportunity of potentially deputizing your dispatchers, which in turn would continue to save you staff costs. I think, as you would move forward, really what we're requesting of you is if you decide to move forward is to really get into that schematic design and next phase. And what that'll allow us to do is to really evaluate staff costs, and really over a 20-year bond period, your staff costs are going to be far more expensive than the cost of the actual capital investment. And I think I would continue to vet this out in regards to staff needs so that you don't do something that costs you additional staff and ultimately cost taxpayers more dollars in the long haul.
I'd have to see that. But again, I think that other than the safety issues and possibly not passing our inspections, that's really the biggest issue here. I've been thinking a lot about this and a lot of talking about this, and the cost per square foot inside that jail is out of this world. And to put an office, the desk, and a chair in it does not seem to buy so many more things. So that's just, I like that option myself, just purely that alone to look at. That's just my thoughts.
Well, Sid, I would agree that operationally you have to take a look at that, and splitting sites creates a whole myriad of other operational challenges. And not being law enforcement, I can't speak to it expertly, but I can tell you my discussions with law enforcement, split site would create clearly some challenges for them. And I think, to your point, the staffing issue over a period of time would accumulate a lot of tax dollars spent.
I'm not opposed to two separate sites. I think it's something that you can explore and say that you've done your due diligence from a board of supervisors perspective. I just think we need to look at it from a holistic approach of saying, we've got this capital outlay, we've got this staff outlay, and what's the true impact to taxpayers over the period, over that period of time? Because taxpayers have the opportunity to control capital by referendum, but they have no ability to control your general funding. So if there's additional staff required because of inefficiencies, it's costing taxpayers additional dollars. And all I'm saying is, let's evaluate both scenarios so that we're doing what's right for the taxpayers and for the sheriff's department to create that efficiency. And if we can do that where we can keep the sheriff where they're currently located, let's do that. If we can't, then what's the reasons why we can't? But we haven't been able to get there yet in regards to staff efficiencies to determine what those true impacts are. And that would be in that next phase of work.
So tax impact is the next area. Let's just touch on that quickly. If we can move ahead to a slide or two. The county auditor has reached out to a consultant to ask for some insight into potential tax impact on a $12.5 million general obligation bond over 20 years, a $15.2 million bond over the same time period, and a $17.5 million bond. And we have those numbers. It adds a $1.35, I believe, the area in the green per 1,000 of taxable value. Again, I'm using the 15.2 million as an example, excluding the Clarinda Police Department, because it's just an unknown. We don't know if that's part of what this is going to be entail or not. But we said, okay, let's put on the high side. And if you decided to do all of this work, what would it be? $15.2 million. So what does $15.2 million look like? If you could move ahead 2 or 3 slides, that would be great. What we looked at is, and one more, what we looked at is the median home value, the average price of a residential property in Page County. And that determination is just over $89,000. The average median property tax is $1,148, and median annual income is $48,000, just under $49,000 per year. So then what we did, move ahead to the next slide, is we went out and looked and tried to find a representative example property that would be around that median dollar figure. We found one on East Grand Street that's currently for sale, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet. The current asking price is $89,900. The estimated selling price would be around $85,500. And on to the next slide. So what does that mean in terms of a potential impact on that particular property? Again, this is a median property in the county. The total assessed value is $84,260. Again, not too far off from what that median number was. But the net taxable value is really what taxes are based on. And the net taxes due on this property is $1,478. Just a little higher than the average that we shared with you here a slide or two before, but in the general neighborhood. So if this referendum were to pass and we were to use this as an example, for instance, based on today's numbers at today's rates at $15.2 million for a 20-year GO bond, that would add $65.82 per year to this particular property tax only. Basically $5.48 a month. So the tax impact is something we take seriously. It's a huge part of determining is a project feasible? Is it reasonable? And can taxpayers understand and help in terms of supporting that particular effort? So questions on how we looked at potential tax impact.
Look at that a lot of ways. So it's, it's the median, but if you have $5 a month, doesn't seem like a lot, but if that money was put towards other things, then all kinds of extra things being attached to a jail. We could do roads, we could do all kinds of things with that money still, if they were taxed that much more, but.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah, go ahead.
We recognize the fact that commercial property taxes and ag land is figured entirely different than residential. We get that.
Yeah.
But that same, this same example would apply, and we would take that example to, again, all of those various uses,
right,
and help people understand what it would be on their property. One of the cool things we've done in the past is create a little widget on a website that allows people to jump in, enter their parcel number, and see exactly the dollar figure impact of the proposed referendum. So it just helps educate and people understand what they might be paying for. So, questions?
To add one more comment to that, back to what Jacob had been talking about previously about separating the sheriff's department, things like that. This was simply just based off the median of 5.2 or 15.2. So if you elected to reduce the referendum amount or increase that, we would have, your financial group go ahead and redo numbers so that we had more exact detail in regards to what this would be. This is simply just an estimate. We wanted to give you some kind of an impact so you understood it, but ultimately the details would become more and more defined as we would get closer to potentially going to a referendum or not.
So Sid or Greg, your comments, you've been in this business a long time. It looks to me like, it feels to me like we're in exceedingly weird times as it relates to our economy, supply chain things, but now interest rates are starting to go up. So part of the argument's always been, let's buy the cheap money and build it now. The cheap money, by the time you get to a referendum, may not be quite as cheap. What impact would we have by waiting to see the effects of a recession that I think many of us believe we're probably heading toward? What impact or experience can you kind of share with us in past projects?
Well, if you go back to 2008 when we had a kind of our housing bubble bust and everybody was talking about what had happened to the economy, and as we came out of it, because it was a fairly short-lived, it was a couple of years and the construction industries were moving full force again. What happened during that period of time is wages did not go down. So when we have to give increases in wages, whether it's in manufacturing or in construction or whatever is along the supply chain, I've never been able to go back to an employee and say, well, we're in tough times, so let's go ahead and reduce your pay by $2 an hour. Once the wages go up, very seldom do you see them come down. When we see recession, I think contractors can be more competitive, so you can see some potential decreases in markup, in profitability through the supply chain. Material, commodity prices can affect things, but in general, I would tell you this, that we have included a 10% inflationary factor because the soonest this would ever happen would be into the 2023 construction season at best. And if you read all the hoopla that's out there, it says that we experienced about an 8.5% increase in inflation when it comes to construction and materials this last year. So we increased it by just 10% with the event that this would happen at a later date. Historically, we have seen about 4% increases. So if you take a look at that 10%, you've got about a 2.5 in a normal, I'll call it what used to be normal because I don't know what normal is anymore. But we were increasing each year the construction cost due to wage inflation and things of that nature at roughly a tune of about 4%. So if we wait 2 years, I think you're going to kind of be right back into the same dollar amounts that you're talking about today when it comes to inflation. I agree. We've actually pushed a lot of counties to borrow dollars simply because the cost of the obligation bonds were so low. So if they were going to do something, we encourage them to do it now versus later due to the cost of money. If that continues to escalate and gets to a point where that interest rate is substantially higher, we probably wouldn't be encouraging counties to borrow dollars. But ultimately, when you shake that all out and you look at the bottom line, what's the impact to our taxpayers in regards to what's coming? Because you have a facility that is clearly aged. It doesn't really owe you anything anymore. It's lived long past its estimated life cycle. How long are you going to be able to continue to operate out of that facility before either one, you're closed down, or one that you have to make some serious modifications in order to just simply meet the minimums? So those are tough choices that you have to make in regards to what you do moving forward.
Well, I appreciate that. To give some perspective, I think we're all kind of a little bit nervous. We had a project at our annex that we had architectural estimates on with a 10% inflation factor, and our expectation to do those improvements, $133,000 or $4,000. The bid came in at $250,000. So I think the angst is, we can put down, you've got 20% in there, but how much confidence can we have in that, I guess, and none of us know. I understand that.
Well, I would say the one thing that's different from this go around versus your last go around is your construction manager is currently pricing up facilities every single day. And as we would get into schematic, we're using real-time numbers in regards to what those costs would be. And then as let's say the referendum actually passed and you were moving forward through design, there's a series of estimates that take place through that process to make sure that everything is still in line. And if there isn't, we're throwing flags up early to make absolutely certain that we're sticking to budget. So I agree. There is uncertainty. There's uncertain times. And as things are changing, we're updating our clients as quickly as we possibly can with revised numbers, both good and bad, right? I mean, if the commodity market were to slip and the cost of raw steel went down, or we had something in the supply chain that saved some dollars, we would show that impact as to what's going on with the project.
With these, and I talked to some architects up at Isaac, these architect fees and all these management fees and everything, these numbers are so inflated right now, it's unbelievable. And I talked to a couple of them, and they said they would negotiate on that because you're benefiting greatly from these wild prices in the materials. So there would have to be some negotiation on all that.
Well, to answer that, Jacob, your architectural fees is what you'd pay an architectural firm, whether it was us or anybody. We have to have a placeholder in there in regards to what architectural fees would be. When the time would come, you had the opportunity there to interview different architectural firms. Same with your construction side. The 2.5, I think it's 2.5. It is, I think you need to look at those numbers. I think they're pretty competitive in regards to what to expect for a project of this size. They're not inflated. The things that we're seeing inflation on are pure raw material. And so you're right, as that raw material would go up or down, your fees would go up and down accordingly, right? So if we can save some dollars in the actual cost of construction, those numbers would decrease as well.
What does it cost to go to referendum? Does anybody know? Actually go to referendum. I'm just curious.
Probably answer our auditor.
Just visit a bunch. I don't know.
Guys, either of you have any knowledge of that?
What's it cost to go to referendum? To actually go? I just didn't know how expensive it was.
I'll send Melissa a note.
Just curious.
Chuck's gonna send Melissa.
I can tell you that our past experiences for counties from the point in which they decided to do a study, if they were to follow it all the way through, do the referendum services, pay for everything, they're in that $75,000 to $100,000 range.
But the hard costs of what it actually costs the voters to get to the poll and create the ballots and all that, there is a number to that.
Right.
And I'm sure that Melissa can help with that.
She's in a Zoom meeting, so I'm not sure.
That's okay. Just,
I'll ring her phone.
so if something does go, it better be really decided on what option it goes.
Exactly.
We can't just put 5 options and pick your favorite.
No, you have those discussions.
Yeah, are you talking though the cost of the election?
Well, I was that, plus I guess all the costs to get there, but the
Yeah.
election was the one thing. What does
Yeah.
it cost us to put something on the
It's-
ballot?
I hear numbers, everything from $5,000 to $8,000, depending on the complication of it. That seems like
That's what the Shenandoah City
City.
Council had promoted if they,
half, yeah, so now
If they
being
Can we
county.
put 2 options on there, let people decide? I didn't know. Can we
I
do
don't,
it?
I don't know. Now, the next, you were talking about, Sid was talking a little bit about the issue of separating and all that. And he mentioned the next step would give us that,
Correct.
because, you know, the issues that we have to decide are, do we want to put the dispatch in there?
Yep.
Do we want to put the EMA in there, or EMS? You know, the labor factors are going to, and that will be in the next step, and that we have to decide on at this point. If we're,
At some point,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be today.
but we need to move forward. to-
Correct. The way we look at this is our responsibility is to provide the first phase,
Right.
phase 1 and A and B, to get you the assessment and to get you
Right.
the estimate.
Yeah.
Decide, do you want to move forward? Do you want to continue looking at things? That part is complete. So,
right.
Okay,
and
so,
we absolutely like to be involved to help whatever that next phase would be.
okay, so the next phase, describe that, what that will be and what our costs will be.
The schematic design phase
Uh-huh.
looks at what this needs to contain.
Right.
So what it needs to contain, not only from a jail housing and administrative area, but should it also contain the sheriff's department? Should it also contain 911, the emergency management service? Should it also contain the Clarinda PD? So those are the kinds of determinations and work
Right.
sessions
Okay.
that need to happen next to say, this is jointly what we come up with in determination of that project.
And that will give us the idea of the issue with the labor factors.
That is
Because
correct.
we know that
Yep.
labor is going to continue going up. And it'll kind of give us an idea of how much that we feel we can save by doing the deputizing and so forth.
Right.
So what is that phase in cost and length of time for that phase? What is the expected?
That's a great question. And if you
I know I probably
just-
got it somewhere in my
Just
stack
a
of
moment.
goodies.
I just looked it up. It looks like it's that $25,000.
I thought it was
25.
25,000.
Okay. And length of time for that, roughly, what would you guys give for an estimate of length of time?
I would say you're probably talking 4 months in there. We just, this went a little longer than what we anticipated, but it's a matter of just getting everybody together. So it's more than just the Miscellaneous group, but I would think you could get this done in the 4-month period, and continue to move forward. Realistically, if you're choosing to do a referendum, it's too close to do it to the September. You would be really looking at next March.
Right.
I wouldn't, we have a lot of information that we got to get to you. If you chose to continue to move forward, that's the thing about today. We're not asking you to go to referendum. We're just simply reporting the factual data we have found. And that next step would be is what's the visual side of it? What's the revised number? What's going on in the marketplace? What are staff costs? It's just continuing to create more detail around what we have found so far.
I know I have this information in the plans, but I want to just confirm it. In terms of the design of the actual detention center and the sheriff's office as it's presented here today, are there, is it fully equipped in terms of surveillance equipment? Is that part of that?
Yes.
Is there any video capability for courts in that quote so that we could, if we chose to have a remote appearance by an inmate, are we able to do that as quoted?
I would say that that would probably be something that would be included in there simply because of the capability of the security electronics that are included in the number.
Okay.
And with technology right now, we're seeing quite a few of our facilities where they're doing initial appearances in that from the existing jail versus taking them to the courthouse.
I just wanted to make sure that we're looking at,
Yeah,
not approving something and having to buy another $200,000 worth of surveillance equipment.
No, when we look at these types of projects and we put together our project budget, it is exactly that. It's a project budget. As Greg had mentioned, we just don't have the land cost because we're not sure where that's at. If indeed through the next phase you find a couple of properties that would be of interest, then we'd start including those development costs included in there. But right now, this is exactly the box, everything inside the box to make it operate. It's all included in that number.
So, well, there are certainly a lot of options. I mean, do you build the 911? Do you build the EMA? Do you add the Clarinda PD? I mean, those are all discussions that need to continue.
I see a work session in your future.
Yeah, I know.
And I guess to me, I think we need to keep moving forward. It doesn't do any good to stop at this point, have all this information, and not keep looking at what we can do. The only other thing I would entertain, and Lyle, this would probably be, or from your group, I think it would be advantageous for us, the supervisors, to have the number of inmates that you're having on a 30-day period, and what if our jail was shut down? What would our cost be if we had to transport all of them to everything from up to Des Moines to, an actual, giving us some ideas of how much it would cost us a month for the number of people we have with a location as close as Ringgold or Taylor, Fremont, and then up to Des Moines or Council Bluffs, just so we have some actual dollars of what we could cost us if our jail would shut down, and then how we would handle staffing if that were to happen, what we would do with them during that process. So I think that'd be a good item for you and your team to start working on some data for us, because if we don't know, that could change. And is that something that you guys feel comfortable? And you could probably get some help from these guys. It doesn't have to be exact, but if you know how many people you have over the last year, and that gives us an idea what we have for expenses. And you can do some 4 locations just as examples for us, what it would cost us, not only in mileage and time, and what their fee is for us to store them there. And then to bring them back for court, because that would all have to be figured in. So that way we can look at that, what it could cost us over a year's time versus not having, what happens if. So
No, that's definitely, that's ultimately part of the overall study. When we get to that next phase is what's
so that will be, so you guys can help work with their data. Okay.
Absolutely.
What makes this next phase 25,000 versus the first one being 15,000?
You got a lot more design work. You're actually putting architectural drawings together versus reviewing of the study and the mathematics behind it. It's a matter of putting the exact same people need to put those floor plans together to actually lay the facility out. We redo the estimate again to make sure that it's reflective of the information that we've provided you today. It's a lot more work.
And at the end of that, we would have a completed plan that is an agreement that
all the
shows
different options.
that shows the options that were considered and how we got to the final determination of here's what we suggest moving forward, and here's the estimated cost, and what all that includes. Does it include 911 or the police department or emergency management or not?
So, is there any suggestion on how to accelerate the options on land? I mean, theoretically, the Page County Jail with electronics could potentially be anywhere in the county. Now, if it's not in the city of Clarinda, there's a city of Clarinda, that option goes away. But what is your recommendation on what we can do? Because to me, that's an unknown cost that really needs to be pinned down.
It'd be a lot.
I mean, to figure out where this thing's going to go and what that's going to cost. And I know we have some land, the county owns some land that potentially could be utilized to remove a portion of the cost, the acquisition cost. I don't know about utilities, but.
And those are considerations that the next step really looks at, is that determination of site selection and prioritization of, first of all, what's the scale that we're looking at? Is it a smaller, just jail housing and administration area only? Without a sheriff department, without 911, without emergency management, without PD? Because that size of what's required is considerably smaller than all of that combined. So those are the kinds of considerations that we need to kind of have early on, as well as site selection opportunities. Does it get located in between two metropolitan areas? Does it get located within the city limits of Clarinda? Does it go on county property that already is owned? Those are all parts of those considerations that we need to look at in that next phase.
And the way I would treat it is do a master plan with everything included. Does that make sense? So if you were to buy land or acquire land, it would be adequate for your full need. And then over time, future decisions could have this space available to make that an option. In regards to, the police department, as a county board supervisor, I'm worried about my county. And if the city wants to jump in on this, then so be it. But right now, that we got to look and address the county's needs. And then if the police department decides that they want to step into this, we've broken out the cost of what that impact would be for the city and for the taxpayers of Clarinda. But from a county board supervisor, what do we do to solve the need that we have right now with the sheriff's department and the jail?
Our jail right now is landlocked. We can't really do anything. So getting somewhere we're not landlocked is.
Right.
Just giving you adequate space to expand, right? At the end of the day, we don't want to put you in the same position you're in today where you have to uproot and go to another location. Let's make sure that if we're buying land or using county land, that we have blocked off enough space there that in the future you have the ability to stay right where you're at and you're not doing this again.
Yep. Well, I guess that we'll have to get on our agenda next week or some future agenda, whether or not to pursue the second phase. But this is all great information. I want to thank Jacob for spending his time to be part of this, and the sheriff's department, of course, your team, Sid. Greg said it best, you've already invested a lot of hours. I think we got our money's worth on our 15,000, so we sure appreciate that.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Well, if neither of you have an issue, I think we ought to have it on the agenda for next week to go the next step and have that decision made so we can keep moving forward. Unless you want to wait 2 weeks, I think it's prudent that we.
When we spend that much money, do we need to have that bid? Spend $25,000, is that something we don't have to have bid the next day?
No, we don't have to.
double
I
check.
think the other thing is you guys did have the opportunity to talk with some additional firms when you originally started this study. You could go back and look at there and make sure that we're not, I would think that we're pretty competitive, but you could go back and look at those original proposals and make sure that we're in line with where we need to be.
Otherwise, we could be in the position of having to start all over from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't want to start over.
No, I think that we made the choice to use this team. I think we need to continue that pattern.
Well, I think we need to keep you guys honest, but I've been very pleased. I mean, your work has been exemplary, and you know, the projects that you're currently involved in Iowa, I think speak for themselves. I get a chance to drive by your Guthrie County facility on occasion, and the Carroll County facility, you were involved in that, and people I've talked with in those areas have been extremely pleased with. You know, they're equally frustrated because of what's going on in the marketplace, but in terms of follow through, nobody has said you guys nobody has claimed you overpromise and underdeliver. So that is important to me.
Excellent.
And
Thank you for that.
options, this is having all the options split out. Very nice.
That information is what you need to help make a value decision. And that's what we're here to help provide. So thank you for those kind words, Chuck. We look forward to the next steps. We'd love to be a part of that, as you well know, and help you down the path, keep it moving, and find that ideal solution. It won't be perfect, but it will be ideal.
Yeah.
So, anything else for me today?
No, I think
I don't think so.
I don't have a question.
Excellent. Thank you all for your time. Jacob,
Yep.
thanks for your participation and all what you've done to help us get down the path. So we appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Okay. Next item up is discuss approve retiring of Page County K-9 Lucas and selling to handler Scott Roop, resolution number 39, or I'm sorry, number 32-2022. Thanks.
Thanks for coming down.
Okay, Sheriff Palmer.
So this week I sent you a couple emails. Yesterday I got the purchase agreement letter approved by the county attorney, Carl. I wanted to go over that with you. The first one was a resolution. It's kind of a template for a resolution where a police service dog is retired. And that's something that they use this template for basically anything from a dual purpose to a single purpose. We have a single purpose, narcotics and tracking. Does anybody have any questions over the resolution?
I read through it. Here's a copy, hard copy, if anybody wants to read through that real quick.
No, I read it. I'd make a motion that we approve resolution 32-2022 as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll start the signature process and pass it
Thank
on
you.
down.
On the purchase agreement, the reason, from the way I understand it, that it's $1 is for the simple fact that if you give something, there might be some liability goes along with that when you sell something. And I think in this agreement, it pretty much states that we are relinquishing all liability, future and past at this point on Lucas.
Okay.
Anything medical, physical, anything. And Scott understands it. Scott's been with Lucas since Page County is only. And Scott understands the dog inside and out.
When is Scott done now?
The 5th was his last.
5th was the last day.
And Lucas has some issues with riding, we'll say, at speeds where you try to get to somewhere. We didn't find that out until later on, and it's something that with that. Lucas has been a good police service dog for us. There was times we tried to utilize him a little more. Sometimes that works, sometimes it didn't. I think it's just like anything else with the canine. When you need them, you need them. And the other time they are there. They're not a pet. They're a very hardworking dog. And when they work, they know what their job is. Kind of like, we'll put it to a hunting dog. When you're not hunting, the dog lays around. But when you're hunting, it's time to work and they know what it's for. And Lucas was a very good dog. His nose was very good. He did exactly what we were supposed to. I know I let him on a track or two and his nose worked very well. It's just after 10 years on a lab, they start to wear down and
He was 10 years old, correct?
they're talking right around 10.
Yeah.
We didn't have a birth certificate or papers with Lucas when we got him. So as far as his date of birth, we don't know. And he's done everything we've asked him to.
Okay.
Just to the point where he's starting to slow down, just like anything else. If you compare that, I think if you, Dr. Brady and Shenandoah Animal Hospital's been his vet since day one, and you compare a 10-year-old dog to 7 years of a human's life every year. But 70, I don't plan on going on a 3-mile track. At least I hope I don't.
Okay.
So are there any questions about the purchase agreement?
Nope. Now, did we have anything that we need to sign on that? Okay.
Just authorize the sheriff to
Okay.
sign for the county on the purchase agreement.
Be a motion to authorize.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item up is, did you get that signed?
Yes.
Okay,
It's back here.
okay, it's back there. Okay. Next item up is to discuss approved starting salary for deputy sheriff. As we went through last meeting, we talked quite extensively about starting salaries, comparables, and so forth. And I believe we're scheduled to be at $52,825 for the new. No, is that right? Does that change? We're going to be on a 2,088-hour work week or work year for this new year. And I think we were figuring at 2080. So, let's see. Trying to think what that did to affect that base. Had anybody figured that out?
That puts it down to $25.29 an hour.
Okay.
25.30 now.
30.
Yeah, rounded
Okay.
up. 29.30.
Okay.
Or 25.30, excuse me. 25.30.
Well,
Is that certified or uncertified?
That's not non-certified as I understand it. Because isn't that what OMOC was hired as?
Yep.
Non-certified.
So,
is there a different wage for certified starting? Is that?
Well, I don't know that
everybody
we've
get-
ever determined that.
Did everybody get the, what I sent them yesterday
I think so.
with the Clarendon PD and Shenandoah PD?
Yep, all that, yep.
Okay.
Out of the last 5 hires, how many have been certified, Lyle?
Out of the last ones, Daniel Omach is the first one we've hired that hasn't been certified since Josh Hafner. So we've hired 3 in between there that have been certified. Did everybody get my email with the body in it?
Which one?
The body in the email that I sent you?
Yep. I guess,
Couple things, and you can look at different ways how you want to decide what you're going to pay. That's pretty much less than what Montgomery County has. Fremont County is about as, between Fremont and Montgomery County is about where that's going to be. You can look at call logs, you can look at different things that you want to say, populations, different things. I pulled up a couple things that differentiate. I mean, you've got call logs for what the city of Shenandoah does and the city of Clarinda, where your general population is. You can look up square miles. So out of 9, and I'm thinking that Clarinda has 9 positions available. Shenandoah has at least 9. So if you look up, the city of Clarinda is roughly 5 square miles. Correct, Gary? 5 square miles for the city of Clarinda. The city of Shenandoah is roughly 4 square miles. You add in the city of Essex, that's roughly 2 square miles. Page County comes up to 535.9 square miles, roughly. So you take 11 off of that, that's 525, 526. There was 9/10 of a mile in there. If you average that out, each deputy, including myself, so each employee in law enforcement, the Page County Sheriff's Office, covers 58.33 square miles. The city of Clarinda, each officer covers 0.55 miles, or 5,500.
By people would be pretty simple.
You can figure people, you can figure what our coverage is. That's what I'm saying. By people, you can figure those. The police department Shenandoah, with Essex included, is 66/100 of a square mile per officer. There's a lot of ways to do that. When you're in the city, of course, you have calls that are closer. So therefore, you don't possibly need as many officers to cover a call, depending on your call load. However, sometimes you need 2 or 3 officers, including calling for help from outside agencies, depending on what your call load is. There have been times where we have covered for Clarinda in the event that their officers were busy with something. I think there might have been a misquote come up after the last meeting. There's been Shenandoah where we worked in there with them at times on different things when they get an incident that they need help with. It's something that law enforcement does throughout the county. It's not just Shenandoah PD, Clarendon PD, Page County Sheriff's Office. It's something that we help out with. They help us when we need it. There's call logs. Of course, in your more populated areas, you're probably going to have more call logs. They have less travel time to get to someone. We have more. Generally speaking, a police department has generally in the past been running 2 officers per shift, trying to overlap in and out of that. That works great. A lot of times, if we have a long ways to go across the county to get to a call, that deputy must take care of the call himself. It's a little different. I hear it from almost every police officer that comes to the sheriff's office to be employed is, wow, our backup's a long ways off. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's why with the raises the way they were, we were capable of hiring people that we knew could take care of themselves by themselves until backup could get there. Whatever you decide on a wage is what you're going to decide on. You've heard my input, you've heard what I think, and that is your decision, not mine at this point.
Well, we just went through budgets and just did all this.
It's
So now we're
certified.
doing it again.
Yeah.
The budget's certified, and like I said before,
All I asked was what you want me to start on.
right, the way that went down with the raise for you and the chief deputy, it's just based on a rule or law or whatever, but apparently you didn't have to ask for all that. And you didn't have to do it. It allowed you to do it, but you didn't have to. Is that
I
right?
provided what the Iowa law said. You don't have to wear your seatbelt. But if you don't, there could be consequences.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at. The law basically states what it did, and that's where it went, as well as most of the sheriffs throughout the state of Iowa. What the comp board recommended was what they recommended based off of that. That was up to the board to set the salary at this point. There was talk at that point of the law changing. The law didn't change.
The difference being, Lyle, as we've talked, I mean, let's just be honest. The difference was many sheriffs in the state with the new law, they read it the same way, but there were different interpretations. And some of the sheriffs that I've talked with went to their boards before the comp board and said, fellows, ladies, we have a problem. Here's what the law says. There's no way on God's green earth can we get there in 1 year. How do we solve it? That was not the case in Page County.
We didn't get there in 1 year.
No, we didn't, but you came in demanding, you had your rep saying, I need 40%, we're the most important, and this is the law. And that intimidated, in my view, the compensation board to end up with their 18, which wasn't doable, and everybody got cut in half. So that action really set the tone. And again, I'm not here to place blame, but that's what happened. We got to be honest. That's the elephant in the room.
That is
And
the
so-
only, because we asked what the law said, and it wasn't
But,
even what the law said.
different sheriffs interpreted that differently, continue to interpret that differently.
And that's why some of them received 20, almost 30% raises over that.
And some of them got,
4%,
yes,
Ringgold County, 4%. Because the comm board decided that's what it was.
but that forced our hand with this
That's what your decisions are for.
notion of we're going to step, because our deputies, who we back the blue, we love our deputies, but you got to look at it from all of our county employees work hard. Everybody's got a job to do. And each year, our deputies have gotten the raise plus the step. When your salary and Charles' salary by law goes up, we cannot sustain that. And so the discussion of hiring people at a percentage has got to go away. It can't be there.
Well, obviously, you have changed that, so it won't be there. That's why I'm asking today,
Right.
what hourly wage do you want me to start them at for a 2088 year? That's what is on the agenda. That's what I would ask for.
And I'd like, just real quick, to talk about these calls. I don't understand law enforcement. Clearly, I don't. I'm not an expert, don't pretend to be. But calls and activity matter. To me, when I go to 911 dispatch, I know that Clarendon and Shenandoah have smaller areas, but just the volume of calls. Now,
Sure.
really the volume of, the number one are the EMS, the ambulance calls, the 911 calls. But then in a 3-month period, I took Page County, Clarendon, and Shenandoah, a 3-month.
And Chuck, if you'd have asked, I could have got all that data for you.
But Lyle, we've
All I have to
asked
do
for
is find
data.
it.
We've asked for data for
Every
5
time you've
years.
asked for data, I've brought you data that you've asked specifically for.
We get no.
All I have to
crime
do is ask
reports.
Chris Grieber that's under dispatch.
Let's just move
Let's go
forward.
back to the 20.
Okay.
What do you want to
So-
start at?
So I mean, can I share this
Sure,
data?
just share.
I'd like to share this data. It's a 3-month data, Lyle, 3-month data for all 3 agencies. And it was metered February 9th to May 9th. So the total calls for Shenandoah.
Is this calls or is this anything that they did?
Dispatch.
So this is dispatch. This isn't just call log. This is
Correct.
traffic stops, noise complaints.
The whole
anything. Okay.
ball of wax.
Okay.
And again, I mean, it shows what you got for those calls too.
I know what they are.
Okay. So we're looking at, if you extend it out times 4, just to play numbers, Sheriff's Department, 2,288 calls. If you take by 4 for the,
So this is any radio traffic that they have.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And that's the only data we've got. I don't have any crime statistics. Everybody files with the FBI. I don't know what violent crime, I don't know what, so the justification has to, I mean, that data, I'm a data guy. I gotta know what we're basing this salary on, because when you look at the starting salaries of these PDs that are taking more calls, I mean, just the way my mind works, it's significantly less than what we have. And then to complicate that, when this was all in the media last week, I got a note from a taxpayer who must live in your area and wants to know why in the evening. Now, I don't know if it's true or false, so I'm going to ask you. The night shift, they are saying the night shift of officers, about half of their 8.5-hour, 8-hour shift is sitting, their vehicles are at the sheriff's office. If that,
Half of the deputies?
yeah, is that true?
We're not seeing that on GPS.
Okay, so
And
can
that's why
we,
we have GPS in there. If you want the GPS, all you have to do is ask. We can produce those numbers pretty simply.
okay, well, that concerned me when I got that from the taxpayer.
Oh, we got one the other day that, because we're pretty sure it's a misquote, from another agency's officer that was just bent out of shape because he thought we were doing all their work. No, we're not doing all your work. And it depends on the shift that you're at.
Right.
It depends where we go. If Champaign gets a call and their chief is in a meeting and they have one officer on in the morning generally, we're gonna go assist with that. If it's a serious enough call, he's gonna come out of the meeting and we're gonna go assist with it anyway. Same thing with Clarinda PD. We do that quite frequently. In the evening, we're not gonna send someone to a domestic for something like that. So does that mean that the call came into Clarinda PD and we didn't even go to assist? We don't
That's
know that.
possible. I don't know that.
Does that mean it's a barking dog call? We don't know that.
I'm just saying that,
There's a lot of call difference when your population is denser.
sure, but with a bigger area, to me, I don't know, calls are calls.
That's
Number-
what,
numbers
there's
are
a
numbers.
difference in that, and calls are calls. But if you look specifically at that, that's why I brought up how many square miles they cover. And yes, a lot of ours is rural. Yep, there's a lot of fields, there's a lot of ditches, and we're trying to find traffic moving in the middle of the night out there. So you're telling that the calls are more, and they're gonna be for a police department. I don't think it's ever been a time when you'll see a county in a rural area have more calls than a city as the population of Clarinda or Shenandoah. You're never gonna see that.
Okay, and maybe it's totally unrelated, but if I'm taking call volume and then comparing salaries, I mean, they're both numbers. Call volume is high, salary is lower. So what other metrics can we use? Can you provide us to show us why a Page County starting deputy should make $4 or $5 more an hour than a 10 or 12-year veteran on Clarinda or Shenandoah Police Department? That's all I'm asking, and I don't know what the number is.
The part of that is, and I said it, when we go to a call, most calls, and I'm not belittling any police officer in Page County or anywhere, when you're out there in the middle of the night or the middle of the day dealing with a call and your backup's 20 minutes away, you got to have that integrity. And this is a different world than it used to be. You've got to be able to handle things and know which one's up. And yes, there are police officers that can do that. I would say most of the police officers in Shenandoah and Clarinda can do that. However, they don't have to do it. They have their backup.
Right.
They're right there. They're not the ones that are going to have to make that in that event. They're not the ones that are going to have to change a life in that event. There's a difference in that.
Okay.
They don't have to go under the civil service or hired under civil service. There's a difference in that, in what they have to perform to get to that point, to test it. There's a lot of different things, but there's also the same thing. In the end, we're all here to achieve the same thing. We're all here to try to make sure that people go home safe and the situation, whatever it is resolved peacefully. In the event that it's not, they have to have that capability.
So in your budget, the starting wage is 52,800, I guess. You have somebody that's leaving who makes more than that, right?
You have what?
I mean, we have somebody leaving that makes more than that.
Oh, yes.
So inside your budget, I'm trying to understand this. That salary is set. He can't fix this in his own budget if what he wants to do. Salaries for each individual we set.
Yes, yes.
That we
You mean
all,
the budget's approved for?
the budget was approved at this salary for starting.
For Scott Roop, let's just get the elephant out of the.
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
I was just trying to think about this. If he has money to work with in his budget now.
Yes,
That's all I'm asking. But I'm trying to learn here. We set the salary for each person in the budget and that's done. It's not flexible inside his budget, the individual salary.
no, I don't have that. It's up to whatever it's set at. Now, the new person won't get that much. We've had this in the past. So let's say the salary is set at, I don't know, Christy, what is Scott's set at? Do you know off the top of your head? 70,000. Let's just start.
Scott
there.
is at
So he was-
71,842.
Okay, 71,842. So you take that minus the 50, what did you propose?
52,825 is roughly
52,825.
19,000.
That's what is in that budget that won't get used for that. That line item won't go to the 71,000. It will just go to the 52, or depending on what they figured for holiday, because looking at our budget this last month, they're all over on regular pay. And I don't know how that is possible, but it is. The overtime is still there where the holidays are supposed to come out of. So that's where there's a difference in opinion on what that's gonna be. No, that new deputy won't make 71,000. He'll make the 52,000 and go from there if we can get one higher. I think you see that we have been open for applications off of Facebook since pretty much the 31st of April. We have emailed out to and sent out one and have 0 back. None of them are certified. I think Brenda PD is having pretty much the same problem getting applications in. Shenandoah PD seems to. Shenandoah PD with their benefit package. Josh Gray and I talked about this in depth last night or yesterday afternoon, is when you look at the Shenandoah Police Department, they have a pretty good package. And Clarinda has some of that too. Clarinda, they get discounted rates for city-owned services according to their front office. That doesn't include their water or sewer or anything like that. I want to point that out specifically. But Lead Center, they get a discounted rate for that. There's probably other things that they have. Shenandoah, free services to their employees for the pool, workout center, and golf course. They get a free membership at the golf course, which for a family is about $2,400. The pool, I don't know what a family pass is there. And the workout center, I don't know, $10 to $15 a month times 12, so there's 120. The pool, that is probably a great. Health insurance, when you start looking at the other health insurance, they're about the same. I think Clarinda's is a little better package than Shenandoah's, which are both a lot better packages than what the county is.
But you're saying that the city's health insurance is better packages than ours?
Health insurance for a family on the city pay $98.90 per pay period. If I got the memo right, a family in Page County, if you have a family policy, is going to be over $400 a month.
We just got a
Is that the right memo?
No,
No, it'd be half of that.
be half of that.
What is that?
And I wonder what the deductibles are on those city plans. We have a $750 deductible, which is unheard of.
Individual,
Yeah,
1,500 family. Or is it 20? Is it more per family?
no, it's 1,500
Okay.
is your max.
The single, and I believe the county still has, I don't know, I've never had it.
Single we pay.
Singles free.
We
The
pay
county
100%
pays all
of
that.
the employee. They pay.
And,
About
you know, in Florida, they
20%
pay
of the
$32 a pay period. They take it out of their pay period. Dental's $547 a pay period and vision's $131. In Shenandoah, it's a little more. Per month, they go by per month. So $232.43 a month for a family health coverage on Shenandoah. Shenandoah got a 60 cent an hour raise for theirs. So that roughly,
They're a union, right?
yes.
And that 60 cents is 60 cents a year for the next 3 years, I think is what.
I don't know what their whole contract
That's
is.
what
I thought it was less
negotiate.
than 3, but if that's what it is. Shenandoah also has the ability on a hiring bonus to pay up to $10,000 for a certified ILEA officer. And that is paid over, my understanding, the course of 3 years. They get a bonus right away, and then after the first year, they get some. And then the second and the third year, they all get that. They have shift differentials. Their afternoon is a quarter an hour more and 30 cents on nights. If you get certified in a, after ILEA certification, they are like if you would have a drug recognition expert or a firearms instructor, defensive tactics instructor, that's 30 cents an hour raise. K9 is $1.50 an hour for care and maintenance, and that, according to the chief, goes into overtime also. For every hour he works, he gets $1.50, and then time and a half for overtime if he gets called out.
So this base salary,
Mhm.
getting back to that, I would suggest that this 52,825, I don't think you go down, but I think that's a fair base salary for a starting deputy. I don't know how you guys feel.
Well, I don't see how we change everything after the budget's done, because everyone in here, because of the large ask, made everybody's raise be cut in half, so why wouldn't every other budget in the whole place come in here and say, can't hire anybody, we need more money, we settle with 3% or whatever? It kind of opens the whole can up again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so what does that come to an hour then?
25.30 an hour. And then July 1st, they'll have,
Now, is there,
Now, wait a second, you talked about not raising it July 1st of last
I
year.
know, but I think we'll come back to that discussion again, because in this case, if we're not going to give any more, then maybe we can still have that in the budget. What are your thoughts on that, you two?
I'd like to see the county go to a fourth quarter freeze on July 1 raises. I just think that's the right thing to do. But
We don't
that's
have
my
a
opinion.
policy- We don't have
We
a
don't have
policy.
policy.
now, is there anything to do with, you're saying certified officers cost a lot more money to train and everything? Some of the money they're saving off of starting a new person over, with Scott leaving and all that. Is there any, I'm just thinking here, is there anything that can be done with an offer for somebody if they have something certified or something, like, kind of like if we're saving money, if it costs us $20,000 to certify somebody, if we can save some money, is there an offer that can be for somebody to save us money in the
You
end?
know, Daniel this new year will be at 56,586. He'd be the lowest paid of the certified officers. And if we start out at 52,825, that's approximately $3,700 roughly. That difference in, you know,
I just don't know.
if you were, so you're saying
I'm
like
just
maybe
trying-
offer a $2,000 more, start them higher if you're
And if
able
they
to find,
stay-
if they're certified.
And it saves us money overall,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
county money
Because
overall.
the
We don't have to
certification,
train.
the
Just have
certification
to-
cost at the extreme is approximately $20,000 estimate, correct?
Probably a little more if you figure what the academy charges, what we charge for
That's an
fuel and wages and
approximate-
everything else for the
approximate
16
figure.
weeks.
Yeah.
To send them in. It's
So that
Right.
cost is going to come in the next fiscal year budget. Do you have that money in there for certification?
No.
So that's a budget amendment if that happens.
Yes,
So,
I'm trying to think of a way to,
which we
That-
didn't make this year. We didn't make one because I can't get two vehicles, so there's 80,000 in there. That for vehicles and updated equipment that isn't gonna get used out of that budget because of the fact I can't get them
the
until
vehicles,
August,
Yeah.
the July
That'll
bills.
just carry over.
now,
No, it won't carry over. It ends
Daniel,
unless you approve it to.
did we pay for his certification?
Yes.
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 So what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if we paid for that, if
Yeah.
this new person, we don't pay for it.
Yeah.
That he can, or she, or whoever can be, we can encourage that more, if we didn't have to pay for it.
Well, they've got to be certified. They've got so long to get
Within a year.
certified. And then you're not going to find a candidate that's got 20 grand sitting in the bank to pay for their certification.
And they can't legally unless it's, what I'm looking for. They've got to be sponsored by law enforcement.
So we would have, it would be just, we find somebody who's already been through it somewhere and already has experience. Is the only way we're gonna accomplish that. I mean, do you wanna, would you prefer somebody certified? I mean, that would be your preference.
Depends on the person. We hire the person, we try to hire the best person. We think is gonna fit the best in our office. And where they can go with what they have for skills. Different things that we have the opportunity to.
Well, outside of that, I'm trying to understand that. Outside of that, I think because the budgets are sealed, I don't know how to open that up. Unless there's a way we can save money overall by encouraging something. That's just I'm trying to figure this out.
No, I think we're pretty well hand tied.
When's the last person that you hired that was certified was Jace, right?
Jace Randall.
Yeah, and you did not give him a huge bonus or anything, so I don't think we can.
Well, and they're probably getting, and think about this. Come to the sheriff's department, they're getting a raise from anywhere else local.
Right.
As far as our local Page
Right,
County law,
right.
because they're
And I think that was part of the reasons the last.
coming here for that reason.
The last three prior to Daniel that we hired came because they saw the step increases and where they could be as long as they did their job above to satisfactory level or above.
And they had a pretty decent step
Yes.
from the city just into the sheriff's department. A
Not
pretty
really.
big jump, well, several thousand, what was it, 5,000 or?
Depends on
Six,
where you
seven.
look at what everything goes to.
That's just,
If you take away, it just a straight wage, yes, but if you take the insurance and everything else out at that point, no.
and the higher we make the payment here, makes it hard on the cities to hire
I think
anybody.
Jace told us when he came to the office, his paycheck was less than what it was, what his take home was less than what it was with Brenda at that time. That's what he told us.
That can't be true. I'm sorry, that can't be true.
Anyway, let's don't get into
Okay,
particulars
so-
about something we don't know and it's
Right.
hearsay. So, back to starting wage. We've
Yeah.
set it at 25.30 an hour. Is that what you guys alluded to?
Yep.
We can't really do anything else because every other employee we have would
yeah.
come in here and say, well, why in the world?
Okay.
We're working happily for what we were told.
So certified or non-certified is 25.30 an hour.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. You need a motion on that? Yes, probably need a motion since it's approved.
And did you make an?
I'll make the motion that we leave the budget as it was, as I try to word it, as it's
Figures
already
out, and it figures out at 52,825, and based on a 2088 hour a year, that would be at $25.30. And, okay, so.
We're going to leave the budget unchanged.
Yes, okay. Motion is second.
I'm thinking about the second. I still am bothered by the fourth quarter freeze.
Oh,
And I think maybe that's where you can encourage the certification, that if the candidate comes in certified, a higher in the fourth quarter, then that candidate
can happen.
would give the 3% or the 3% raise. But if it's a non-certified, we've got to pay the cost of the ILEA, that individual would be frozen at 25.30 until July 1 of 2023.
That's approximately, it's approximately 52. That would be approximately, whoops, I'm sorry.
$1,500 or something.
Yeah, 52, what did I figure out? 52,825 to 54,3 or 4. So it's about $1,600 more if they were certified.
Well, I'm all right.
And if they were given a raise.
Yeah.
But I just don't know how we as a board move
Do that.
forward with a, you know,
Does that create
we
something?
yeah, that could create a legal issue, I'm afraid. So it'd be a strong recommendation, but I don't know.
I guess we should run it by Hollers and Cooney
Yeah.
or Carl,
Yeah.
but that would be
Mhm.
my preferred way. I mean,
No, I understand.
So what are we doing?
okay, we're going 25.30 was a motion. I'll second that.
Okay,
For starting wage.
starting wage at 25.30.
And
An
then
hour.
we'll work with Carl. I mean, you don't have anybody hired now, but we'll work with Carl and legal. And if we're able to do it, we will probably, before you get that person hired, do the certification qualifier as getting a July 1 raise. If we're able to do that. But for now, that's we
25.30 an hour.
Yep, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Next item up is road tour if allowed, and as we heard from JD, that is going to be out of the picture for at least a few days. I think that's a good idea to try to work in if we can get the good weather, get some of this paving done. It'd be kind of nice to see that, see those projects, how they're working. Board communication. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Remember, my brain.
Yeah.
I think all mine start again next week, so
I
Tuesday on.
had a Tuesday meeting. and then went to the Cindy Axne event.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. How did that go?
It was
crowd?
well attended. There were probably 40 people there.
Good, good.
And yeah, and of course, the liar,
She handed out any checks?
uh,
She handed out any money?
she didn't hand out any money. But I think, she did show, and I think the media covered it. They were there, like, for example, Stanton Child Care Center.
Yep, I saw
Got $1
that.
million. She's put, let's see, 3.2 million for improvements to Des Moines International Airport, 1.6 for a Warren County bridge, $1 million for Stanton, $1 million for the city of Johnson for a sewer upgrade, $1 million for the Raccoon River East pedestrian bridge. That's near the Walton Woods, that's near Des Moines.
Mhm.
900 grand for affordable housing in Council Bluffs. $750,000 for a child care center in Ringgold County, Mount Air. $600,000 for a waterwork project in Creston, and $100,000 for some dental improvements west Des Moines. So the process, JD's kind of attuned to, watching the triggers. We do have the Essex North Bridge. We've applied for. We're in that
Earmark.
cycle.
An earmark or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Earmark.
Yeah, hopefully we'll know if that's gonna be a possibility. It'd be nice to have that, follow that close together with the other one.
And then the only other thing, two things I had, we've got a DCAT meeting at noon. We missed our last meeting, and this is when it's Page Fremont Taylor, when school projects to help children are funded. We'll look at the applications back. This is the agenda today.
Wow.
Or eat before you get over there.
Yeah, no kidding. Let the dogs out. But the only other thing was, let's see. Oh, I had a walkthrough with the ag team and our public health people. Want to thank the interim director, Della, and her team. Essentially what we're going to end up doing to facilitate, there's going to be some shared space that they can agree on. And Chris and Darren are going to office upstairs. So that will be their main area, and then they will share space where the sink is as needed, and in the waiting room / conference room where we meet for
We can
EMA.
use that.
So that'll be shared space. Working on the contract details, the recommendations that I've had on shared space to charge it out based on anticipated activity. So let's say they're using 60% of the time, then that space would be prorated. I'm not done with that. I got to get back with Carl, but that'll be done before the end of the week.
Okay. Public Health is having a meeting
Oh,
on
yeah.
Monday. Chuck, do you want to try to attend that one, do you think?
Let me look.
Monday at 6, I think it is.
I think
In Shan or where?
Well, I think it's here in Zoom. I didn't know, or I guess my concern is there's a lot of lack of asking questions before registering concerns and complaints
Right.
about the discussion. We try to have open discussion about different ideas, different ways to look at things, so it stirs up some positive thoughts. And in this case, it kind of, my creativity on the radio probably brought up more negative issues. Sometimes positives don't always get to the top quick enough.
Right.
So I'm just going to probably at my next one, when Mr. Dietz calls me, I'll just say no comment. That way nothing can get misconstrued. Now, in all seriousness, I think there's still a lot of areas that, in the future, we don't know how many combined issues there can be and positives that can happen by us being proactive and being thoughtful, making things more efficient in government.
Now is the time.
Now is the time.
If we're going to look at it, now's the time.
What is your Monday night look?
I'm good. I've got
Are you-
a Empower Rural Iowa meeting during the day, but I'm going to Zoom it.
Is that let's see, did you get the email on that?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'll look up that while we're talking here and see if I can forward that over to you. Jacob, you got it?
I think Della did send that out.
Okay,
think
I was
got that.
thinking she did.
When did that come? Maybe I got it, didn't know.
Here, it's May
I
3rd.
might, if they put on the agenda, and I just thought of that, if they would just put, we possibly might be there, does, is that fine if I listen to or not? Is that not?
Yeah, if we can both be, if it's a Zoom
Yeah,
and we're not discussing our business, we're.
Right,
We can just.
Yeah,
we can
observe.
sit in and listen, yes.
Sit in and
yes,
listen.
I
yeah.
might, if I can get done, I'd like to listen. to
Yeah,
that too,
well, and
see what your
I'm
idea is.
planning on it, but I just thought it might not be a bad idea to have Chuck there to answer a question since he and Della have met. I don't know, did anybody else from their board?
Tish Frazier was
Tish
there.
was there, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think that,
And you know, Phil, it was a little uncomfortable, and I understand it. When you have space and you call it your own, anytime you have to relocate or do something a little different, I mean, I understand that. That's tough. But the fact of the matter is the county's, you know, it's our
it's
choice
hard, yeah.
on how we utilize that space. And I appreciate what public health has done, not
Mm-hmm.
trying to minimize, but I look back 18 months ago when they operated out of this room
Yeah,
and we've got tons of space.
Right.
yeah, we've,
So
now it worked out great during COVID because if we wouldn't have that
I need that
space,
more space.
we would have really been structured.
and they're still doing clinics. They're getting
Yeah,
20 to 30
sure,
people
sure.
in a clinic every
Uh-huh.
other week. But
Well, the agenda looks fairly light for them. They've got old business, which is discuss open administrative position, new business, tobacco position hiring, and then update on public health items and then adjournment. So,
well, it's my understanding they may have made a hire.
yeah,
They went,
They made a hire
of their tobacco?
of their
No.
director.
Oh, they hired a director?
That's my understanding as of yesterday.
Oh,
now is it offer to hire? Do they still as a board have to approve it?
Well, that I can't tell you. The individual's been offered the job, the individual resigned on their current job. So I don't know what process needs to go. I mean, I don't know what their process is for approving. I would assume that the board would have been the one making the
Yeah,
offer, and the
right.
board chair with the authority of the board.
Okay.
good. I had a landfill meeting, and one of the main topics there was, that I remember clearly, was wind. We have a wind policy, but like this wind at the landfill can be a problem when the wind blows like crazy here in the last few months. But they're working hard trying to keep that from being a problem.
Contained.
Not even adjusting that a little bit, even when it's too windy. Maybe adjusting that. But
Is it more the south or the north winds on a serious note? Does it seem to make a difference with them?
well, I didn't really say. I'm not trying to think about which way to be
Probably
worse.
the
Probably the
south.
one. Yeah.
Well, although we had a lot of north wind too.
Yeah,
Okay.
ending winter, but that was the main concern, that's all I had.
I don't think I had anything last week that I can remember. No, I didn't have
We
anything.
did, I saw us also do some light upgrading, so we got some bids on lights, going
Up there.
LED
Oh.
to pay back in 2 years.
Mhm.
Because they had thought lights that were burnt out.
Mhm.
We're switching.
So that same guy that was here.
Well, he did a estimate, I called him, we got the stuff, and then he went out there and met them. And a local guy came in a little better.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, but see, they have no incentives,
Oh, they don't get, I wondered because
they're not on, I don't think they're on Mid-America, they're on something else.
Alliant.
Something, I can't remember. They're not on the same,
Oh,
Mid-America incentivizes it, and whoever, I can't think of the electric bill is right now. It doesn't incentivize.
Hmm.
So we had
Darn.
incentives that they didn't have,
oh, okay, okay.
but
What makes it, those lights make a big difference in here.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. But they figured the calculation on payback, and it was very fast. So that's all I have.
Okay. Next would be approved minutes.
So move.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Adjournment.
So move.
Second that.
Okay.